welcome back to the 6th edition of the Tune-In online guitar course. I say that differently every time. We're gonna have a title for this eventually. Let's get right into it. We're gonna warm up, and we got lots to learn today. So we're gonna move my metronome here to 65 beats per minute. It's a little slower than the last song we played. And we're gonna do our spider. Let's do triplets first, going up, and then on the way down, we're gonna take a little break, and then we're gonna do quadruples on the way down. So remember, don't just jump in, hear it first. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Every beat gets 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Alright, let's stop there for a sec. Now we're going to reimagine how this is going to sound when we do 16th notes, quadruples. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a down up 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 down up. All right, you feeling warmed up? So by this point of doing this warm-up, we just want to make sure that we're doing it right? Remember, the notes aren't hard, so we want to concentrate on everything else. So maybe your notes are sounding kind of short, like when you make a note, and then once you've made it, you kind of you're tired, and you kind of just want to stop working for a sec. And then your note goes away right away, because you don't want to press. So when we're doing this, we want to make sure we're holding the note until we play the next note. Otherwise, we're playing something called staccato. Staccato is like a fancy Italian word for when you cut a note off, nice and sharp. That would be staccato. So we could do it staccato. We could play it nice and pointy like that. Maybe that's what yours are sounding like that right now. But we also want to practice it more often than staccato. We want to play legato, smoothly. That's legato is another fancy Italian word for smooth. So if we want to play smooth, we want one note to go into the next note. All right, so I'm holding, even if we got the time. So I'm holding one note until I play the next note. I'm not going, because holding notes is hard. I'm not giving up. I'm holding it. So make sure that you're not giving up your note too soon. Hold it as long as you can until you're playing the next note. It's like really being in the present moment. You can think of it as really trying to don't worry about this being over. Just be okay with it. Be okay with making a note in the present moment until you have to make another note. Okay, I've got a new warm-up for you in case you're getting tired of the spider. This warm-up is, well, first of all, let me tell you what I saw on my Instagram feed this morning. I was, you get ads for things that you're interested in, and I was scrolling through my Instagram and I saw an ad for a finger vise. You'd put your fingers and it had these screws, and you could slowly vise your fingers apart to sort of try and work those muscles in between these fingers that we don't use very often unless we're playing music. So I saw that and I thought, thank goodness I know this other finger exercise so I don't have to put my hand in a vise. So if you don't want to put your hand in a vise, then we can do the Faerie finger stretcher. Why is it called the Faerie finger stretcher? Because back in the 80s, before Breath of the Wild and before the Ocarina of Time, there was an original Zelda game. And then when you met the fairies who would give you hearts, it sounded exactly like this. I'm actually just going to clean up my tone a little bit before I do this, because when you're doing finger exercises like this, you want to go for clean tone, because we're not interested in hearing the distortion of our amp. We're interested in hearing the notes off our fingers. So when you're doing technique exercises, try and clean up your tone so you can hear every note nice and clear. So here we go, the Faerie finger stretcher. It sounds like fairies from Zelda in the 80s. And hopefully my life energy is full and I can go and fight some bad guys now. But so the Faerie finger stretcher is basically, there's a few different versions of it, right? Because I just did the 4-finger version with all 4 of my fingers. That guy's tough. But we'll start up with the 3-finger version. So the 3-finger version, and on your guitar, it depends what kind of guitar you have. You kind of want to start off as high as you can on the neck, because what are we doing? We're stretching our fingers like sort of 1 fret at a time. So if you go up nice and high, the frets are tiny, right? It makes it easier. So I like starting on the 12th fret here. That's a good spot for a lot of guitars. If the 12th fret isn't working for you, if the body of your guitar is getting in the way or it's uncomfortable, you can try a little bit lower. If you've got more room, if you've got a nice cutaway, you can go higher. But so I'm just going to do it on the 12th fret here. So I'm going to put my index finger on the E string on the 12th fret. And I'm going to put my middle finger on the B string on the 13th fret. And I'm going to put my ring finger on the G string on the 14th fret. So this is the 3-finger version. And I'm going to pick all 3 of those strings, the G string, the B string, and the E string, to make sure that they're all making a nice clear note. And then I'm going to move my index finger down 1. So now my index finger has moved down to 11 on the E string, and both of my other fingers have stayed in place. So make sure those are all making noise. And now what's going to happen, I'm going to move my middle finger down by itself to 12 on the B string, and then my ring finger, though, has stayed in place. All right, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to move my last finger. All right, and then, so now I'm back where I started, except everything has moved down 1 fret, right? So we're just creeping down the neck. And then, so you just keep on going. Down the neck as far as you can. And you are gonna feel this one. It probably isn't gonna sound like mine sounds right now. So I would suggest practicing this 2 different ways. The first way, I would say, like, be really careful about trying to make sure all the strings are ringing out. Right? If you're getting this, that's not bad. I'm trying to make a mistake here. Right? If you're getting that, then one of your fingers is touching the other strings and you have to adjust. Try and get more on the tips of your fingers. Remember, try and imagine you have skeleton hands and you've got to play the guitar with the very tips of your bone fingers. And that's going to make you curl your fingers around and stay out of each other's way. So practice one way, being kind of a bit of a stickler about making sure all the strings are ringing out. And you might not make it very far that way. That's okay. So that's being a stickler for technique. And then the other way you want to practice it is just try and get as far down the neck as you can. Just see if you can stretch your fingers. Even if it looks ugly and sounds ugly, that's okay. Doesn't have to be in a rush. I'm in a rush right now because I'm on tape, but you don't have to be in a rush. And even if it starts getting ugly, start getting some of those, right? Even if it starts getting really ugly, just try and stretch your fingers just like that so we don't have to put them in a vise. So that is the Faerie finger stretcher, the 3-finger version. If you like, we can also turn it upside down. The upside down version is slightly easier, but it doesn't sound as good. So, I don't know. It's kind of like the evil fairies. So if we turn it upside down, then it's the same strings, but the frets are reversed. So now I'm My index finger is on 12 on the G string, and my middle finger is on 13 on the B string again, and then my index finger is on 14 on the high E string, so it's just upside down, and it sounds kind of freaky. And that's just going to work some different muscles, and a lot of people find that one easier. But do both versions, right? Because we want to learn, this is going to give you great tone. This is going to like make you, your fingers make amazing contact with the fretboard here and the frets. And it's going to give you really great technique to have your fingers be able to stay out of each other's way and be able to play almost any chord on the fretboard. You can, if you do this every day, your hands are going to be able to do almost anything you ask them to do. So there you go, the Faerie finger stretcher. Okay, so last time we learned about being able to find notes on the neck, right? Because we know the names of the strings, right? Let's review just to make sure. E for Eddie, A for 8, D for dynamite, G for good, B for bye, and E for Eddie again. Eddie, 8, dynamite, goodbye, Eddie. And then if we know the names of the strings and we know the musical alphabet, which is something we learned in the last lesson, then we know there's an alphabet that goes from A through G, and in between, there's a note in between all those letters. So there's a note in between A and B that could be called A sharp, higher than A, or B flat, lower than B. And then there's also one more thing we have to remember. There's two exceptions, which is that there's no note between B and C, and there's no note between E and F. So that's the musical alphabet, and if we can remember all of that, which is going to get easier as we review, then we can begin to follow the alphabet up the string and know what each of these notes on the strings are. So we've done the E and the A strings so far. Let's check out the D string. So using the musical alphabet and your amazing deduction skills, can you find me a G sharp note on the D string, right? So remember, there's more than one way to play every note on the guitar. So we gotta find a note and know what string we're gonna play it on. So we're looking for G sharp. If you guessed the 6th fret, you are correct. So how do we get there? We counted up from D, going up the musical alphabet. So 0 without my finger touching the D string, that's a D note. Going up, we have a note between D and E called D sharp. Then 2nd fret is E. Going up, we have to remember there's no note between E and F, so E goes straight to F. And then there's a note after F, between F and G, we'll call it F sharp. And then 5, that's G. 6 is the note between G and A, called G sharp. Really great. So the other great thing about like knowing frets, knowing what the notes are called, is because it helps us find chords, right? So we learned about power chords so far, and we know that we have to know what the bottom note, and when I say bottom, I mean like the lowest note, and when I say the lowest, I mean the lowest musically, like I'm trying to speak low right now. So the fat strings make the lowest notes, so remembering that. And then so we have to remember the lowest note, that's the name of the chord, right? So if I wanted to find an E power chord on the A string, right, then we're going to be looking for that note on the A string, that's going to be E, and then we're going to make a power chord with it, right? So first we have to find E. Let's do it backwards. Let's count down, right? Because we remember that we can also start at the octave here on 12. 12's, that's an octave. So if 0 is an A note, then also 12 here with the 2 dots, that is also an A note. So then we can count down from here. So we could go A, and then what's before A? There's a note between G and A. There's a G sharp note, right? Oh, we found a G sharp on the D string, right? Oh, look, those notes sound the same. A, right? A flat could also be called, no, wait, we got lost. A, A flat, right? Or G sharp, G, G flat, or F sharp, F, E. There's no note between E and F. So we found our E on the A string here. And to make a power chord with that, we need to go the higher string and 2 frets over. There's a 2-string power chord. If we want to make a 3-string power chord, then we can also add our pinky right under our ring finger on the G string. So now we've got our E 3-string power chord. And using that formula, you can find any chord on the strings that we're reviewing. The other good thing that knowing the musical alphabet is good for is we learned about capoing last time, right? So we've been learning some open chords, right, to play fast car. But last lesson we also learned that fast car is played with the capo. So we're playing open chords, but we're clamping the guitar on the 2nd fret. So all the notes in those chords have moved up. Tuning break, don't be afraid to take a tuning break. Guitars go out of tune all the time. They sound better when they're in tune. So if you can kind of hear that something's off, just take a little tuning break. So now we have a C chord, but we've moved everything up 2 frets. So we can actually call this a D chord now, right? This is our C chord, and we've got our C note here on the 3rd fret of the A string. A sharp, B, C, right? And that's the bottom note of our chord, so that's our C chord, right? And then when we switch to G, right? That's my bottom note. We want it to be a G, and that's on 3 on the E string, right? E, F, F sharp, G. So that's my G chord. And we could go through all the notes that I'm strumming here, and like they've all got a letter assigned to them, right? But it's kind of easier. It's kind of easier just to go by the bottom note. If you know the bottom note, then you kind of know what chord you're dealing with. So now when we capo everything, even though I'm making the same shapes with my hands, all the notes are higher now, right? So my A string has now become a B string where it's clamped, right? So it's clamped on the 2nd fret, which is a B note. So now I have to count up from B. So now we got B, C, C sharp, D, right? And I'm playing the same shape. So that's a D chord now because all the strings have moved up 2 semitones. Right? And then when we switch to the G chord, we're still the same shape, but my E string, because it's clamped on the 2nd fret, has now become an F sharp string. And if I look at my tuner, it actually even tells me what note it is. F sharp, G, G sharp, A. So this G-shaped chord has now become an A chord because I've clamped everything. Everything's moved up. So that can be a good trick, because what if you're playing your song, but someone says, oh, I don't know that song in that key, or I can't sing it in that key, right? So I only sing this song in B flat. So then what do we have to do? We have to take this G chord, there's my G note, and then we have to like move it up to B flat, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, B flat. So I moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But no, hang on, that's C. G, G sharp, A sharp is the same as B flat. There we go. On 6. So we've moved our G chord up, G, G sharp, A sharp, which is the same as B flat. A sharp is higher than A, B flat is lower than B. So I've moved my chord up 3 frets, and that means that I clamp my capo on the 3rd fret. And now we're playing the same song in B flat. So learning your musical alphabet is really helpful just because we're not theory nerds, we're just people who can communicate about what key we're playing in and what notes we're playing, and that makes it easier for everyone around us to make music with us. It's really great. Okay, so last week we also learned the notes on the E string in open position, right? So we're learning all the natural notes. The natural notes are the notes without sharps and flats beside them, right? E goes straight to F, but then we'll go straight to G. We're gonna skip that F sharp note or the G flat note, right? We're only playing the natural notes. So last week we learned the notes on the E string, E, F, and G. And we learned how to read them on the staff. So there was a little reading exercise from last week to see that if you could check it out. We learned about whole notes, half notes, and quarter notes. And then we've got E, the top space, F, the top line, and G just sitting on top of the music staff, on top of the top line. And if you look at your music, we've got a mixture of whole notes and half notes and quarter notes. So here's me reading the music that hopefully you can read this week. All right, so we got a beat, so that hopefully, so hear the beat in your head, right? So now we know what a beat is. So reading it, start with the whole note. E, 2, 3, 4, F, 2, G, 4, F, E, G, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're gonna try that one more time. E, 2, 3, 4, half note, quarter, half notes, quarter, whole note. E, 2, 3, 4, half note, quarter, half note, quarter, whole note. Now we got it. So that is reading some music. So all this is doing is we're not gonna, you don't need to read music to play guitar, but it's just to reinforce just seeing the notes going up, right? And to recognize the notes without sharps and flats versus notes with sharps and flats. Those things are just gonna help you talk about music. So don't worry, we don't have to like learn to read music to play guitar, but we're just increasing our understanding of how music works. So then learning the notes on the B string, it's gonna be the same. So we got B, right, the open B string. The first fret is C, B goes straight to C, and we're gonna skip this accidental note called C sharp or D flat and go straight to D. B, C, D. And we're going to quickly learn. Well, first let's make sure we know what these look like on the staff, right? So B is the middle note on the staff. And then C is the space right above it. And then D is the second to the top line of the staff. So the notes go up like line, space, line, right? B is on a line, C is on a space, D is on a line. And remember that we're looking for the way these notes look on the staff, right? We're not, notes can look different, right? Like a whole note looks different than a quarter note without the stem, right? They all look different. So then it's easy to look at them and be like, oh, that note looks different. But really just kind of try and pay attention to like how high and low it is on the staff. And then just know that like, whether the note has a hole in it or whether it has a stem in it, those are just telling you how long to play the note for. And then there's only two notes on the G string. We're just going to really quickly learn those. The G note, the open G string, and the A note. So the G note is on the second line on the staff, and the A note is on the space right above it. So now we've got G on the second line, A on the space above that, B on the third line, C on the space above that, D on the fourth line, E on the space above that, the very top space, F on the top line, the fifth line, and G sitting right on top of everything. So those are all the notes that we can read using musical notation. And there will also be a little quiz to see if you can read some notes on the B string and the G string as well for next week. Just try it out. Just remember that we're just increasing our musical awareness. If you can play a note and also think about how long to play it for and think about what note's coming next, then you're becoming a really great musician. Better than the kind of musician who just thinks about making noise. One thing that we wanted to talk about is your guitar playable? All right, because you're not here, I can't hear your guitar, I can't see your guitar. There might be a chance that your guitar has some issues, and then you might be trying some of these exercises and getting frustrated by them. So we want to make sure that your guitar is playable, and the biggest thing that affects the playability of your guitar is the action, right? So you could look, this guitar has pretty good action. I like taking care of my guitars. But if you've got like a ski ramp situation where the strings are slowly like rising sort of off the fretboard, and then you've got like, especially like around here, around like the 12th fret, you've got like a lot of space between the strings and the fretboard. That could be a sign that your guitar is not super playable and that it needs a neck adjustment or something. You can adjust the neck to bring the strings closer. That's called like adjusting the action. The action of your guitar is a word for basically just how far the strings are off the fretboard. And people like, you know, like it depends on like what kind of guitar you like to play. Like people who like playing really fast like to have like really fast action. This is kind of like my slide guitar. So there's so many different ways of playing guitar, and the kind of strings and like sort of how you have guitar set up really sort of like affects the way you can play your guitar. So this guitar, I've got really, really heavy strings on. I think these are 14s. And that sort of allows me to like play slide guitar on this. So if you've got a guitar with like a big ski ramp for a neck and the strings are like way off the neck, don't worry about it, because you can actually still have a little bit of fun with it. We might need to like find a different guitar for you to like play with your fingers, but you can. Guitars with lots of like really high action are great for playing slide guitar, right? Because when I'm playing slide, I'm not pushing the strings all the way down, right? I'm just kind of gliding on top of them. And here, we can crank our gain for this one. So remember, when we're playing slide guitar, you're not aiming for like sort of in between the frets like you are with your fingers. You're aiming for right on top of the fret, right? Because remember, when we're pressing the strings down, we're making the string make contact with the metal fret. But when we're sliding, we're not pushing the string down. We're just kind of like, we're resonating a note with the slide. And then so for the note to be in tune, you basically want to have the slide right above the fret there. So here we go. This is one that you can play with your finger or a slide. I'm playing with my slide, and this is all on the A string here. So I'm starting off on 7 on the A string, right above the fret there. 7, 7, 10, sliding up to 10. 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2. So that's a fun way to get started playing slide, right? You can do that with your finger as well, right? 7, 7, 10, 7, 5, 3, 2, all on the A string, right? Another great way is these 3 strings, the D string and the G string and the B string, they all kind of form a chord. So if you can play just those 3 strings. When I play slide, I tend to play with my fingers more, because slide is like sort of a game of like keeping the strings from making too much noise while you also get some notes out of the slide, right? So I'm kind of just concentrating on the 3 middle strings here, the D string, the G string, and the B string. And if I play those all together, right, and they're all in a straight line from my slide, that just gives me a nice chord there, which I can slide up and down the neck. So another way to play, so playing here on the A string, that's like playing like the bottom note of the chord, right? Like, so when Jack White kind of plays the bass part, boom, right? It's good. You kind of like think of that part being lower, boom, bum, 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 bum. But then when he really comes into the guitar, he's kind of playing the top part of the chord. So then I'm playing, I'm sort of barring those 3 strings, the G string, the D string, the G string, and the B string. And then now I'm on the 9th fret, barring all those strings, right? So it's kind of like I'm doing the top of a power chord, right? There's the bottom note, and then if I was using my fingers, can't do it with my slide. There's my power chord. So I'm kind of just playing the top of the power chord, so I'm on 9 instead of 7. So 9, 9, 12, 9, 7, 5, 4. So I just moved everything up 2 frets from where I was doing the bass note. The bass note started on 7, and this kind of like slidey chord moved it up 2 frets to 9. So 9, 9, 12, 9, 7, 5, 4. Another really great thing you can do with a slide is a lot of slide players, they will tune their whole guitar to a chord. So now they can slide up and down using all the strings. So I'm going to tune my guitar to open D. So I'm tuning my E string down to a low D. I'm leaving my A string the same. I'm leaving my D string the same. I'm going to turn my G string down to F sharp. I'm going to tune my B string down to an A. And my high E string down to a D. So now you can see, just by strumming my guitar and not using my right hand, my left hand at all, I've got a chord, right? And now I can use my slide to slide that chord up and down the frets and make some cool. And then another thing you can do is you can kind of use the open strings, right? Because when you tune your guitar to like an open chord, you're kind of like, you're setting yourself up in that key. I'm in the key of D now, and now I can use all my open D strings to... See, I'm kind of pulling off, right? I'm pulling off, and then I've got that nice open note. So I went through a whole bunch of stuff there to tune my guitar to an open chord. What I had to do is I had to make sure my tuner was set on chromatic so that it was listening for all the notes I wanted to tune my guitar to. It wasn't just listening for like the right, you know, like the E, A, D, G, B thing. If my guitar was set to like guitar, it would just be listening for like those notes. But in order to like tune your guitar to something different, you got to set your tuner to chromatic. So tuning your guitar to an open chord, that might seem like something that is daunting for you, but don't be afraid to, like a lot of people, the way they come across open tunings is just sort of like by ear, right? So if this kind of guitar playing really appeals to you, you like slide and you like the idea of open tunings, that's awesome. You can experiment finding your own tunings. You can tune your guitar lots of different ways. And I totally bet that you could find a way to tune your guitar that is gonna be creative and interesting for you to like move a slide or move some chord shapes up the neck and like incorporate the open strings. So don't be afraid to explore your guitar that way too. You can tune it to different ways and have a lot of fun with it. So that's something you can do on your slide guitar. If your guitar is like way too hard to play, you can still play slide on it. You can also come by Tune In on Tuesday and Thursday, and we have guitars that are really playable. If you've got any issue with your guitar, if you've broken a string or anything, if you've got an issue with your guitar, there's not much I can do to help you here in front of the camera, but you can come down to the drop-in, and we'd be happy to help you with any issues your guitar might have, right? Because if you're having issues, it definitely could be your guitar fault. Your guitar's fault. Could be your guitar's fault. These things are finicky, right? So make sure you troubleshoot your guitar before you give up. Okay, we're gonna switch to fast car, and we're gonna nail down a strumming pattern for the chorus. Because we've got our riff that we play for most of the song, and then we got a couple choruses. I'm gonna switch, I'm gonna start playing this capoed here. So we're in the same key as Tracy Chapman. So capoing on the 2nd fret. See, I tuned these guitars right before we started this lesson, but it's breezy in here. If you hear something you don't like, don't be afraid to tune your guitar. It makes everyone around you happy. And when you're playing your guitar in tune, then you get a better feel for it, right? When you're playing an instrument and you're getting kind of feedback off it that you don't like, it makes it hard to play your instrument, right? So if you're hearing your guitar and you're not liking the way it's sounding, just double check the tuning and go back to playing. Get real comfortable with tuning. I'm still hearing something I don't like. Yeah, that string's crept up on me. Yeah, see, there we go. Now I like what I hear. So this song kind of has like a rhythmic idea where it likes switching 1 and 2 and, right? It likes switching that first chord on 2 and. So 1, 2, and 3 and. So when we're strumming the chorus, we're emphasizing that change on the 2 and. So we're gonna strum down, down, up, down, 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 up, down. So what that sounds like is down, down, up, down. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? So that's for the first part of the chorus. So remember we were driving in your car, speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder. Right? So we do that for one time through, and then we switch to kind of like the shots where we're switching the chords twice as fast. So then we go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Right? So we're actually keeping the same strumming pattern, but now we're switching the chords twice as fast. So C and 2 and G and 4 and E minor and 2 and D and 4. I, down, up, down, 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 up, down. So see if we can play it at 65 BPM together. 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. And remember, if you're getting lost in all these 1 ends and 2 ends and stuff, it's really good to kind of just, like, if you can get your brain straight about what you're playing, it really makes it easier to just do like a little bit of brain homework before you're just trying to sound it out. But you also like follow the lyrics, right? So I, right? That's what we learned last time. If you kind of follow the lyrics, you'll be able to get the timing. And then, so let's try and play the chorus as far as we've made it. 1, 2, and remember when we were driving in your car, speed so fast, felt like I was drunk. City lights lay out before us and your arm felt nice wrapped around my shoulder, and I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. So what are those? We just got to do that C to the D one more time at the end. 1 and 2 and 3. We're still doing that on the 2 and. We still have that like rhythmic idea of be someone, be someone. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So now we're gonna do the whole chorus together. 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Remember when we were someone, be someone. All right, we're gonna leave it there for today. I hope you have a great time playing Fast Car. See if you can play the whole chorus at 65 BPM this week, and then we're gonna speed it up as we move forward.